Are you ready?
I'm on camera, so I'm ready. Thank you.
Would you like to do the clap this time, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do the clap.
Okay, last time you freaked me out because you were like super anxious.
I will do it.
Not yet!
Okay.
We do the intro, then we do the clap, remember?
No, we'll do the clap first.
No, we don't.
Okay, go for it.
Trust me, I've edited all of these.
Okay.
I do know.
Alright.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to Editing Academy. I'm Darryl.
I'm Laura.
And you can do the clap now if you'd like. There you go, nicely done. Alright, Laura, what's the year and what are the movies we're talking about this time?
These are the movies that were released between January 1st and December 31st, 1983, and they were nominated for Best Picture in the spring of 1984. The movies are Terms of Endearment, Tender Mercies, The Big Chill, The Dresser, and The Right Stuff.
Alright, other notable films that year, and there were a lot of really good ones. This was a good year for film. Blood Simple, first Coen Brothers movie.
Mm-hmm.
The Natural, Against All Odds, 16 Candles, highly problematic now, but still. The Neverending Story, Splash, Dune, Gremlins, Footloose, Purple Rain, one of my personal favorites, Repo Man, cult classic, Cotton Club, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Terminator, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai,
Like that?
love that one, Amadeus, Ghostbusters, the original, Romancing the Stone, and Red Dawn.
Loved Red Dawn.
See, a good year for film.
Which makes sense because this was a good year for movies that were nominated.
Definitely better than last year.
Yes.
Where would you like to start?
Let us start with The Dresser.
Okay.
Let's just do The Dresser.
The Dresser, directed by Peter Yates, adapted by Ronald Harwood from his 1980 play, also titled The Dresser. Stars Albert Finney, Tom Courtenay, Zena Walker, Eileen Atkins, Michael Gow, I hope I'm pronouncing that, and Edward Fox. Was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, based on material from another medium. It did not win, and again, always holding the Best Picture for last.
So, fun facts. First of all, this is not on the AFI list. Fun facts. Tom Courtenay, who played the Dresser, was in the Broadway run of the play.
Oh, okay.
And he
Same character?
Same character, and is the only one that made it into the movie from the Broadway run.
Okay.
And in 2015, they remade this with Ian McKellen and Anthony Hopkins, which I actually would really like to see.
I do know that. I may have actually even seen it.
Oh, cool.
But my mind's blanking.
Okay.
Anyway, alright, The Dresser. This is one of those more intimate, quiet, play-like movies that we see a lot that go up for this. I like the character name, just Sir. That's
Sir.
obvious.
And his wife, her ladyship.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is, we'll just call him politely, a dick right out of the gate.
Fair.
And stays that way, and you don't really kind of understand why he's having issues until much, much later on in the film. I don't know about you, but I was a little lost, being like, why is he having these delusions and everything so quickly?
The only thing I wondered was, because they were obviously in the beginnings of World War II and things were happening in London, is like, was he a World War I survivor? That's the only thing I thought, because it seemed PTSD-like.
I was assuming some form of dementia.
Could have been, yeah,
But
we will never know.
This is one of those movies that you like to comment on a lot, where the performances carry the entire film. The story is almost irrelevant, it's just the plot that you follow through, but without these two being as good as they were, this would have 100% fallen apart. All the secondary people are fine, they do their jobs, no one really stood out for me except for her ladyship was pretty good, but everybody else was just background characters, and it was just the two of them, and I thought they were phenomenal.
Two great actors and not much else. The other thing, except for her leadership, I had the stage manager is the only one with anything else interesting to do. I thought her character was a little bit interesting, but yes, I think it was on the performances, and that was it. The other thing I would say about this movie is it was a really good play.
Yeah, okay.
Like, it wasn't a good movie because it wasn't cinematic in any way. Like, this was an intimate little play. I would go see this at the theater. I really have no interest in seeing the movie again.
No, the movie was fine. It was just a straight adaptation, I would assume.
Yep.
Because they did not, like, when we watched, what was the ballerina one? I can't remember the title of it.
Yes.
When we watched that one, at least...
Ingmar Bergman one.
Yes. You got more
of... Turning Point. I'm sorry, the Turning Point.
Correct. you got more of what was happening both in, out, and around. This one was 100% just in the theater, in very small rooms, occasionally on stage, but that was it.
Yep.
And I don't know if that actually detracted. If they had tried to make it bigger, would this have worked as well? I don't really know, but...
I don't think so. I thought the two best actors, both of the actors were nominated for Best Actor, and I agree with that. And I think they did a great job.
Yep.
It's a throwback to those 70s movies that we watched.
Yes.
That, we've seen, but it seems a little out of place in the 80s. It seems a little of a throwback. But I was surprised that it was nominated for Best Picture because I just didn't think it was as... Even the smaller movies are bigger than this.
Yeah, the movie overall, when you check all the boxes, you put everything together, I don't think it was the same caliber as a lot of the other ones. Even some of the ones that were not nominated, it just didn't have
totally reading that list.
Yeah, it just didn't have the same caliber. It was fine. I'm glad I actually watched it so I can check that box and say, sure, I did that. A couple specifics. I did like how they played it. It was just 100% the writing, where his dementia only happens when he's not in character.
Yes.
That when he's in character, he's fine, he's totally committed, he's absolutely there. Moments where he breaks out, but in character, he's 100% fine. Out of character, he's just a mess.
It's true. He's a Shakespearean character, or he's a mess.
Yeah. I don't know about you, and I'll ask you if you enjoyed it as much as I did. I kind of liked the confessional scene where he gives Madge the ring.
Oh, I love that. That was my favorite part.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought that worked really, really well
because
she's admitting something that he is acknowledging, not reciprocating.
Yep.
And it was just a nice little tender moment of everybody realizing where everybody else was and their relationships with each other. So I enjoyed that.
I did. I thought that was lovely that she has kind of quietly loved him from the wings her whole life.
Yep.
And he's known that and seen that and is giving her a small token.
Yep.
And just very sweet. But also at the end of the day, he is in fact, as you said, a dick. And, he never acknowledges either her or Norman in the book of his life.
No, and we'll get to that in just a second because that's a big, big scene. One of the issues, and this is why I'm very glad, it's going to sound horrible, but I'm very glad you're female because I get to bounce ideas off you that I have no personal knowledge of. The scene
I'm afraid.
The scene with the young actress.
Yes.
Who obviously has a reverence for him.
Yes.
And things go a little bit too far.
Yes.
But then all of that seems to be taken away by the dresser coming in and stating what is obviously a fact for Albert Finney's character is like, he doesn't care about you, he's just concerned how much you weigh.
Yeah, exactly. He just wants to carry you because the other woman weighs more than you do.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what is the question?
So my question is the handling of her and her, we'll just call it reverence for him, that seemed realistic, but also seemed to kind of go over the top a little bit. Like, to me, he just seemed like he was fucking with her, like, lift your dress higher, higher, higher. Like, if all he cares about is just being able to pick her up, why go through all of that?
Oh, I think there was a little bit of him loving the idol worship and
ego,
trying to get more of, totally playing with the ego. So, yes, I think there was a piece of that there, and I think she was willing to give him whatever it was that he wanted because she did revere him.
Okay.
So I thought it was pretty realistic, and I thought, I think he was seeing how far he could go, but at the end of the day, he was going home with his wife.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious in his thoughts about that.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So
12.
Norman asking, basically, was he trying to get Sir on stage for Sir or for himself?
For both,
Okay.
but primarily if you were to flip a coin and have to pick one, it would be more for him than for Sir.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
His entire being, and we get this at the ending scene, is just, this is his comfort place. This is exactly what he knows. He has a function, he has a role. Anything outside of this is just going to destroy him.
Yes.
And so his role, he falls back into, I need to do my job, get you on stage.
Exactly. Yep, totally agree.
So that does bring up a question that I had as well. The dresser, we never really get any sort of, except for the big emotional scene at the end, we don't really get any sort of hints into his character or motivation. The closest we get is the never despair scene.
I think a couple of the things where he's saying, a friend of mine was sent
him.
away. It's always him.
Yeah.
So you see kind of that he was kind of sent away or treated badly or this or that. So I think all of a friend of mine, gets you a little bit towards here is a place where he has found importance, and he has found importance in other people's lives. So that's the only thing that I can find is he's not found happiness outside of this circle. This is where he finds his happiness and purpose.
Right. He has a certain degree of control. He has a certain degree of responsibility and authority in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming just because of the way he was playing the character that he's probably a gay man.
Oh, I think they wanted us to think that. Yeah. He's very effeminate.
So in this time, that would not be something that would be normally accepted. And in fact, they make fun of him a couple times for it.
Well, and they talk about another character who's not there because he's in
gay.
Jail.
Yeah.
Because he's gay.
Yep.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Okay, let's get to the ending scene.
Okay.
It goes through all the emotions. I mean, there is every emotion you can think of that happens in that speech. And I thought the actor did a fantastic job going through all of that. One moment he's screaming, yelling, and the next moment he's sobbing, and it's very hard to go through emotions that quickly in just essentially a 3.5 minute scene.
And they're all real. They're all believable. The anger, the sadness, the love, yeah.
My question is, was it necessary? Was that scene necessary to the film? I'm going to argue that it wasn't. While it was important for his character, I don't think it was important for the movie.
Well, okay, and I argue again that this wasn't a movie, it was just they televised a play.
Sure.
So for me, I think the plays are usually ratcheted up a level higher in emotions, so I could see that in a play on a stage. And for me, again, this was just a filmed play. So I think it was necessary.
Okay, so I'll just rephrase it then.
Yeah.
You think it was necessary for the story they were telling?
Again, not really, but I think that plays usually hit that kind of a little bit more emotional. I don't think it moved anything forward in the play.
And I don't think it gave any resolution.
No, but I also do think that it showed some of the things that you thought he was feeling, and you got to see all of it.
Okay.
So, are you thinking it's a little bit of an Oscar grab?
No, because I don't think he was overacting. He was acting the hell out of the scene, but I don't think it was overacting or trying to show what a great actor he was. He was doing the things that were necessary for the scripted story, that in the direction I'm sure he was being given, and he did it beautifully. I just question whether it was even necessary for this story. I didn't learn anything new.
Right.
There was no closure. He didn't have a cathartic moment at the end where he forgave him. The last scene is you just see him resting on top of him, sobbing uncontrollably. It didn't give anything to the story. It kind of gave some things for his character, but nothing for the story.
I would say though, this is a different type of story. That in another movie, I would say yes, it was too much, it wasn't necessary, it was superfluous. In this particular movie, it was all about bringing the inner emotions externally, and I feel like it fit this movie.
I don't think it detracted anything. I don't think it necessarily enhanced anything either. And I think you're right, looking at it more as a play rather than a movie, it would make more sense. You are correct, plays. They speak to the back row, everything was big and grand. This was definitely big and grand, but I just question whether it was necessary.
Didn't do it for you. Yep. Nope.
All right, I have nothing else to say about this.
All right, what's next?
I would like you to start with the right stuff this time.
All right, go for it.
All right,
Tell us about the right stuff.
Written and directed by Philip Kaufman, based on the 1979 book of the same name by Tom Wolfe. Stars Sam Shepard, Ed Harris, Scott Glenn, Fred Ward, Dennis Quaid, Barbara Hershey, Levon Helms, narrates and plays an Air Force test pilot. I don't know if you know who Levon Helms is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And it was nominated for a ton of stuff. Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Sound Effects Editing, and it won for pretty much all the editings. Film Editing, Original Score, Sound, and Sound Effects. And that's it.
All right, so not an AFI list, and here's...
That one does surprise me a little, because people, when you hear people talk about this, they do it with reverence.
True. I think there's just so many others out there.
Sure.
So, fun fact is that Chuck Yeager was a consultant on the film and played Fred the bartender at Pancho's Place.
Oh, yeah, now that you mention it, absolutely. I read his biography/autobiography. He wrote it with somebody else. Fascinating life, that dude.
Fascinating life, but okay, so here's Laura's controversial take is, I thought it was a super enjoyable movie. I really liked it. It moved along pretty quickly. I didn't think it had anything that hung it together, no beginning or no end. And I think the biggest problem was, I love Sam Shepard. I think Chuck Yeager has a very interesting life, and he didn't know he belonged in this movie. Like, I don't understand why the whole beginning is Chuck Yeager and his wife and his, where he is, and he's the fastest man alive. And then you don't see him again in the movie for like an hour and a half. And he's there for little intermittent scenes here and there, and he's not even at the ending. So I don't understand what his purpose or thread was, except for that he was the first of the space cowboys, so to speak. And then, they went on to the 7 Mercury astronauts, which I thought they did a really interesting job of talking about them and their wives and their lives and how they came to this role. And then the movie ended. And I thought it was very strange that it just ended with the last one going to space. So I guess there was kind of an ending there. I thought the thread just dropped. And they told us what happened to Gil Grissom and nobody else. Like, if they had done like the end credits of, like Fast Time at Ridgemont High, here's what happened to this guy and that guy, American Graffiti. But this one just ended and Gil Grissom was later killed. Like, well, all of them had very interesting lives. What happened to the rest of them? But we're going to just stop.
I agree with you, and it's one of the biggest criticisms of the movie, because the movie's very long, it takes on a lot, it goes through a couple decades, and it is essentially about the building of the space program. So you would think if you're going to tell that story, then you tell, like, you would end with us going to the moon or something.
Exactly.
Like, that would be a natural ending. They chose not to do that,
Right.
and I think a lot of people for the first time when they watch this are incredibly disappointed by that. Like, I want the full story. Why can't I have the full story?
Or even end with, Neil Armstrong coming in and meeting them in the hallway as they're, the next generation is coming up. Something just to show that passing of the torch.
And I agree with that. I've seen this 4 or 5 times now.
I've seen it a couple.
And so each time I watch it knowing the ending, I watch for just the story that they're actually telling and see if that works. To me, I agree with you that I think they should have told the complete story or at least alluded to a better ending of that. But that said, the story they do tell, I'm 100% fine with.
Yeah. It's a very interesting story. They've got a lot in there. They tell a lot. It's engaging. Like I said, I like what they're showing at work. I like what they're showing behind the scenes. But for me, it's not quite enough. It just peters out at the end. But that said, I loved the role of the wives in their lives and how important they were in these men's lives.
I was going to ask you about that because they do go out of their way to show the wives both by themselves and with their husbands, supporting their husbands, and what their lives are like being wives of these super popular people in the country. And I did appreciate that they took the time out to actually write that in and show it, because it's not just about the men, it's also about the women and what they had to go through to get their husbands to be able to do this.
The men couldn't have done it without the wives being at home and also being that nice picture of them next to them in Life magazine. They clearly needed that because one of them was separated and had to get his wife back on board.
Yes. That said, I think there are moments in this movie where they do try to carve out a little bit more and try to tell too much of a story. I'm not saying that this is that they should have taken those scenes out. It's just an example of if you wanted to tell a tighter, more effective story, you would have removed a lot of things from it, and I think that's one of the things that they would have removed. They also would have removed most of the Chuck Yeager scenes, as important as he was. Like, the film just tried to take on too much, and out of all the little things that they kind of tagged on, the development of the wives was by far the most effective and best portion of it.
I don't think they could have made the movie without that storyline.
I agree with you, but I question. Like, to make this story more effective, you would have had to trim a lot out. And I'm not saying that that's, again, just to be super clear, I'm not saying that that's something that they should have. I'm just saying that's an example of a thread that they did develop throughout the story where they did with other things that maybe could have been taken out. I don't know.
Yeah. Nope, totally agree. So since we are saying like women's reactions versus men's reaction, so let me tell you one of the reactions I had, which was Ed Harris as John Glenn. The first time they show him in color with those blue eyes and that smile, the word I wrote was "damn," I believe. So I'm just saying, John Glenn had my attention throughout the movie. It was a young Ed Harris.
And admittedly, Ed Harris is a good-looking man. Even
Very
now, he's still a good-looking dude. Okay, so I didn't notice this in any of the other viewings, but I did in this, and this is an example of something that I think that they tried to throw something in but could have very easily taken out. Did you notice the reoccurring man in black throughout?
Oh, the minister. Yeah.
Was he a minister?
He was a minister because he was over the funerals of the men that died at the beginning.
Okay, I've missed that portion ever since because I thought it was like they were trying to do some sort of metaphor for death.
Oh no, he was the metaphor for death, 100%, because he's the one who went to the wives' homes when the men died.
Right.
And he presided over the funerals, but because he was the minister for the place.
Okay, I missed the minister part.
And they had him nearby of all of the scary things because they assumed somebody was going to die.
Every time they like a rocket goes up, they do a quick 2-second cut to him, and he's just
like, "Am I going to have a job after this?"
And I thought that was a very strange choice because it's only through the first 3/5 of the movie that he's there, and then never again.
Because I don't think he went down to Houston with them.
Okay, but again, it's like that's
the Jaeger thing all over again.
Yeah, it's something that was woven in, which could have been effective, but dropped, like not fully done.
Yeah, so no, I think he was the metaphor for death, and I think he was actually death, represented. Yes, what else you got?
One thing I think that the film does effectively, and did a really good job of, is the building of tension and then the cutaway to something kind of almost normal.
Mm-hmm.
The example of when John Glenn goes up into space and he's having issues, they cut to a scene where everybody's just kind of sitting around and nobody's talking about it. They did that a lot, so they would build up tension, and then just for some strange reason, show you something normal that you could latch onto, and then go back to the thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing this movie had was a ton of humor.
Yeah, it was funny.
Very funny. And I could talk about, I don't like comedies, but I like humor in movies. And the scene where, was it Scott Glenn had to pee?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let him because they thought he might electrocute himself in the suit, and he's like, you got me sitting here for 4 hours, dudes.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. So I just thought the whole scene with them discussing whether or not he could pee was just funny. Yeah.
And they did the actors and the writing did a very good job of building the relationships with the astronauts themselves. Mm-hmm. Some of them were cantankerous, some of them didn't like each other. Like John Glenn apparently was not that well liked of a person during this.
I think because he was so, high moral guy with some other guys that were, enjoying their success.
Yes. For example, the scene with the 2 girls walk into the bar and they're like 4 down, 3 to go. Like the film did a good job of building up the celebrity of these people.
Yes, which I think they very much were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. It was a fun
It was a fun movie. I've watched it before. I would watch it again. It's a fun movie to watch. But again, I don't like the ending.
Okay.
Because it doesn't.
I have nothing else for this.
All right.
Let's move on to Tender Mercies, just because it's next on my list.
All right, that works.
Tender Mercies, directed by Bruce Beresford, screenplay by Horton Foote, supporting cast, Tess Harper, Betty Buckley, Wilford Brimley, Alan Barkin, and Alan Hubbard. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, written directly for the screen, and Best Original Song. It won for Screenplay, and Robert Duvall took home the Oscar for Actor. Go with the facts.
All right, not on the AFI list. Fun facts is this is Tess Harper's feature film debut. She was working on stage in Texas and attended an open casting call, and they cast her. And she's now, a well-known, successful actress. And then this is another one of those movies with no score. The only music is from the country music or when he's playing on his guitar.
100% correct. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And I should have picked up on that.
So, all right, can I start on this one? Because there was something that I didn't like that I just have to kind of get that out of the way, and then I can talk about things I did like. I did not love that his first wife, who was the victim of domestic abuse and he had tried to kill, was cast as the villain.
Yeah.
That was really problematic.
Second wife.
That's true, I forgot he had another first wife. I didn't love that. I think that they very much cast her as the unforgiving woman, and look at how he's turned his life around. Like, he was very bad to her, and she has every right to hate him and try to keep her child away from him, and that's not the way it was played. So that bothered me. And the other thing that bothered me was when his child came to him as an adult and said, remember that song you used to sing for me? He's like, no, I don't remember. And then she leaves and he starts singing the song. It's like, why did he have to withhold that? That could have been a beautiful shared memory. And I thought that was very unkind and withholding that he needed to do for himself, for a defense mechanism maybe. But it was very unkind.
I agree. I did take that particular scene because I noticed the same thing. Like, why are you singing the song she just asked you to sing 30 seconds after she shut the door? Exactly. And my only thought process was that maybe they told him, and suddenly you remember the song and then you start singing it. I'm like, okay, but if that was the case, you could have done that, handled that to show that he suddenly remembered the song.
Exactly.
And then it could have been a moment of tenderness for him remembering his daughter.
Exactly. I think he knew the song and withheld it from her.
Could very well be. Like, the film does not give you any indication either way.
Right. So that's the only part that I really kind of had problems with.
Okay, I had a lot more than that.
Okay, bring it.
So I actually did this twice because I was like, that can't be true. The first half hour of this film, there is not a single scene that lasts more than 30 to 45 seconds. Every scene is bang, 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 bang. There's no development. The scenes sometimes don't even try to, you can have multiple scenes that will build to an overall scene. Not for the first half hour of this film. It was just information to get in your brain so they could tell the real story. And I did not like that.
I agree with you completely. The only thing I didn't like about that is it's almost like it was like a flip book, because it showed them like they're in separate rooms, and then they're in the house in separate rooms, and then they're in the living room together, and then they're on the couch together, and then he proposes to her. And so it's like it's
so quick.
Exactly, which came quickly, but all of those little scenes are kind of like, okay, they are orbiting each other a little more closely every time. And then he's like, so I'm clearly in love with you for the last 2 months that we've been spending together. And she's like, well, if you proposed, I'd say yes. And so, it was like Norma Ray, where they're like pragmatic people who, like, you're kind of fine, and I'm not going to get a better offer. Let's get married.
I think you're correct in the intent. I also think you're more forgiving of this than I am.
I would forgive a Robert Duvall anything.
Okay.
So let me just say that. Okay.
So
I would forgive him anything.
I have in my notes, remind Laura of her comment. Do you remember your comment?
That I would give him an Oscar for reading the phone book?
Yes.
Yes, and that stands, and that's true, and I love him today. He's Boo Radley. He's Boo Radley. He's the consistently, I still can't say that word, but he's, on Godfather. I love him. So yes, I forgive him anything.
Okay, I have tons of problems with this movie.
Okay. Bring it on.
The film, in both the direction and the writing, does not know how to handle emotion well at all. Every time there's an emotion, it is telegraphed, and it is usually like from 0 to 10. Everybody. Or it's just passive indifference. Like, the emotions that people are supposed to go through, that we're supposed to see them go through, just don't happen in this film. It's handled so poorly.
I agree with that when it comes to Robert Duvall and most of the other characters. The one person that I liked it in was his wife, Rosalie, because she was just an even keel the whole way. She was very simple in all the best ways. She was, like, her son would ask, like, how did my father die? She's like, I don't know. I asked him how they died, and I never found out. Like, she told the truth all the time.
Sure.
And everything was, okay, my husband just left, and he's an alcoholic, and I think he's going to go out drinking. But you know what? I'm going to say a little prayer and ask God to help me figure this out. And when he comes back, I'm going to make him an omelet or a cup of soup or whatever she did. So she was very simple, and I don't think she went to 10. I think her emotions went from 1 to maybe 4.
Yes. For her character.
For her character. Everybody else, I agree with you, but not for hers.
It was all, everybody just was, they were constantly walking around like exasperated. Like,
was that you that was exasperated?
with the film, 100%.
Okay, just checking.
Okay. So the scene where after seeing his ex-wife, Mac gets all angry.
Yep.
And he goes off to, we don't know what, we're assuming he's going to go drinking, but he just suddenly, he comes home, gets angry at her, at his current wife, and then just storms off.
Yes.
Hated every moment of that scene. Like,
okay.
I did not think that was handled very well at all. I get that they were trying to show him as a much more reserved kind of person. He does not wear his emotions on his sleeve unless he's just super angry.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the way that was handled, because in the end, he's going through all of these things. He goes to the bar, he doesn't drink, he buys himself a bottle of whiskey, bourbon, whatever it was, doesn't drink it, and he didn't appear drunk, so we don't think he did. And he comes back and was like, I was going to, but I'm not, and I'm really sorry. Like, none of that works for me. None of that works.
I thought it was all fine. I thought it was totally fine, because he was not a reactive person. I think because if he let himself feel and show those emotions, he would have got out and got loaded. And he couldn't, and so therefore he didn't. So I think he was feeling them all, and I think he's going to have a heart attack next year because it's all going to be deep down here. He's a good Irishman. He's holding it down. But I don't think that he felt or let them all go.
I think you're most likely right in the interpretation.
Or very forgiving of Robert Duvall.
Well, that could be a part of it,
Mhm.
but I couldn't do it. Maybe I just wanted more out of his character rather than have it just be this single kind of one note, either I'm just kind of hanging out or I'm angry kind of character. I wanted more emotional depth out of this character, and maybe the intent was that you're right, it just wasn't there.
I don't think he had it. I just don't think. I think
you're most likely
he
right.
poured it into his songs, and that's where his emotions went. Was into his songs, and he couldn't let himself have them because he had to write them all.
Okay. I'm gonna go with what you say.
You're very sad about that response, but yeah, okay. But.
Well, I mean, it makes the film better if you go in understanding and knowing that. And if I ever watch this again, which probably will not happen, but if I ever do, I will know that that is his character.
Yeah.
Rather than hoping each time to get some form of something out of him, rather than just be so pragmatic all the time.
Like his daughter died. What was the point in that? Why?
Okay, that's another thing.
Why bring the daughter just to kill her off?
So at the very end, he suddenly goes, there's this theme of car accidents. He talks about his car accident, another car accident that his wife was in, his daughter dies in one. Suddenly there's a big speech theme about car accidents that does nothing. It does nothing.
No.
Also,
I saw no point to that.
To me, Mac's entire character is said in one throwaway line at the end where he says, and I quote, "I don't trust happiness, never have, never will." Great. That sentence gives me all the insight that I need to him, and his character doesn't really reflect that throughout 100%, because there are moments where he attempts to be happy, he enjoys the happiness of people around him, so it almost seemed in conflict, but if that's
he doesn't trust it.
But if that's his character,
Yeah.
then I needed something more for that. I needed scenes where that is being confronted, maybe more blatantly, maybe I'm just being stupid, but I just needed it. I needed something for that ending to make sense to me.
Right. Maybe that's why he didn't share the song with her. Maybe that's why it's like I can't have her in my life, and so I can't give her this. But I don't know. That was very problematic for me too. Is why bring on the daughter, who was phenomenal, Ellen Barkin, by the way.
Yeah, she was great.
Just to have her die.
And super young.
Super young. This was filmed before. I think this was filmed after Diner, but before Diner came out, which was her first big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I enjoyed it. I love Robert Duvall. I hated the whole arc with Betty Buckley being the bad guy, which she was not. And I love Tess Harper. I thought Tess Harper was the best part of it.
I agree with all of that. I had such a problem with this. Like,
Okay.
So
All right.
this is the one film that I'm fighting with this year.
That's all right.
Can we move on?
We can move on.
Thank you.
All right.
To another film I have problems with.
All right, go for it.
Terms of Endearment.
Okay.
Directed, written, and produced by James L. Brooks, who I love. Adapted from Larry McMurtry's 1975 novel of the same name. Stars Deborah Winger, Shirley MacLaine, Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito, Jeff Daniels, and John Lithgow. Nominated for pretty much everything. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, all for Brooks. Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, both Nicholson and Lithgow. Winger and MacLaine for Best Actress. Best Art Direction, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Sound. And Nicholson and Shirley MacLaine won, as well as Brooks for Director and Adapted Screenplay.
All right. Not on the AFI list. So the part that Jack Nicholson played, Garrett, was supposed to be Burt Reynolds, but he was committed to another movie. And it would not have been the same movie without Jack Nicholson. And also the movie Evening Star was made as a sequel to this movie in 1996. MacLaine and Nicholson returned, and it was about her raising the children who were now pre-adults.
All right. Do you want to start?
I would love to start.
Okay.
So, I love this movie. I do not find it problematic, so I'm dying to hear what you have to say. I've watched it multiple times.
Me too.
I think the interesting part of the movie is everybody always goes to the tragedy of, spoiler alert, Deborah Winger dies. So everybody thinks about that and the scene of her in the hospital, and there's a whole lot of movie before any of that happens. And so I think, it's an incredibly well-rounded movie before we get to that last, 25 to 30 minutes, which is really interesting because that's what everybody hones in on. This is a movie about relationships.
100%.
And the number of different, and I just kind of wrote down, so mother-daughter, mother-son, best friends, husbands and wives, lovers, lovers turn friends. It's got it all. It absolutely has all of the different types of relationships, and all of them are incredibly well drawn.
I agree with that.
And I think every character is incredibly well drawn and interesting, and there are no heroes and there are no villains.
Correct.
And you've got the cheating husband who isn't even like that horrible a guy. He's weak and he's sad, but he's not horrible. And Deborah Winger is cheating, and John Lithgow, and then you've got Jack Nicholson, who is pretty much playing Jack Nicholson. I think
this is the start of him just like, I'm just going to show up
I'm
as
just
Jack.
going to show up as Jack. So I think that's sensational. So one thing also is, this was obviously based on the novel by Larry McMurtry. When you think about that man's range, that he wrote The Last Picture Show, he wrote this, he wrote Lonesome Dove. It's amazing to me the range that he has, and that his focus on different characters. So I've got a couple of different things to talk about, but that's my overall. I want to get yours.
Okay. Overall, I really do like this movie. I just have one very serious problem with this movie.
Okay.
And that is the hypocrisy that she has.
Oh.
She gets angry at him because she thinks that he's cheating, and he hasn't. Meanwhile, the entire time, she's cheating.
Oh, I think he was cheating at the beginning.
No, there's nothing to indicate that. Nothing. He even says, I've done nothing wrong at this point, and I believe him. Whereas it is, because I think the film, with all that it shows, if he was, it would have shown him some sort of quick scene
He's
cheating.
canoodling with a co-ed.
After?
No. Well, I mean,
she cheats first.
We see her cheat first.
Yes.
We know he's canoodling with a co-ed and do not know when that began.
No, we don't. And we see them.
She is hypocritical. I will give you that. She's
Thank you.
absolutely hypocritical, but
That's-
I'm not saying that she cheated first.
That
We saw her cheat first. Go for it.
we did see her cheat
Yep.
first, and you have to go by the information that you're being presented in the film. There.
Yes, you don't.
Yes, you
Go
do.
ahead.
There is no indication that he had been doing this before she started to cheat. There is none whatsoever.
Except for the woman's intuition, which I give a lot of credence to.
But we see her cheat
Yes.
first, and then get so angry at him, even though she never catches him doing anything.
And a huge part of it is she's angry that he cheated. The bigger part of it is she is angry that he uprooted their lives for the woman he is cheating with.
Sure.
He moved them from Des Moines to Nebraska.
Yep.
That alone is something to be angry about.
I don't deny that, and that's
Okay.
fine. You can be angry. Have those conversations. Express that you're angry. It doesn't mean you get to go out and fuck John Lithgow. That's all I'm saying.
We
is
know
that
we
it's
should do that, yeah.
there is. Well, hopefully his wife, but.
Going into a different territory. Go ahead, keep going.
When people talk about this film, the first thing they always mention is that he was cheating. And again, I don't see that there's any evidence to indicate that, while there is clear evidence that she was.
Yes.
It is a story arc that is developed in the film.
Yes.
Whereas not with him. And I don't like that part gets glossed over in the conversation of this movie.
It was a very unhappy marriage.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any issues with that. The performances, the writing, as you said, every character is so fully developed. It
Yes.
is hard not to like this movie. I just don't like the fact that she's constantly given such a pass, whereas he is not. It bothers me.
I will tell you something I loved about Flap, about Jeff Daniels' character, cheating or no. When they first get married, that conversation he has with her mother on the phone, it's full of hopefulness. You think that he is going to take her side and be strong, and they're going to have a beautiful, wonderful marriage. They're communicating, they're loving towards each other, and that made me really happy. I liked him at the beginning, and I liked him at the end. You know, he was not a bad guy at the end. He stayed with his wife through her disease. He loved her and did the best he could for their kids, which was not raising them. And so he was shown to be a not terrible guy. Cheating or not, he was shown to be not terrible person, just very weak.
Yeah, he did not have a spine.
Yes.
And I don't know because we don't really know. I assume that he was that way before, but his mother-in-law definitely did not help that situation at all. Like, I'm pretty strong person. I would have trouble standing up to that woman.
She's scary.
Yeah.
Very scary. Mm-hmm.
So that's my issue.
Okay.
That's the thing I wanted to get on the table is I don't like that aspect of it and the conversations that end up happening because that gets overlooked so often. So I just wanted to mention that and bring it up. I'm done.
So mentioned. Okay. I'm going to move on to this. This movie has one of the most romantic scenes I have ever seen in a movie.
One?
It is the movie, and it's not the one that you think. It is the scene where Aurora is in a crappy Holiday Inn, and she has been spending the whole day with her daughter who's dying, and she's taking care of her grandkids at the pool. And I'm gonna get a little like teary because she's looking crappy, she's all disheveled, and she looks up the stairs, and Jack Nicholson showed up. And he's not there to do anything but be her friend. And so he comes down the stairs and she sits down and hugs him and gets it always makes me cry. And gets all, just like he is there just to be there for her, and that's love.
Yes.
Because he never said he loved her.
Nope.
That he meant. That was love. He showed he loved her.
And his character definitely goes through a massive transformation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And what I liked about his transformation is that it's very slow. There is no singular moment where suddenly he recognizes what he's been doing and suddenly changes. It is slow and incremental, and it's all based on her. I love that. I thought that was handled beautifully.
And yet, they're not going to end up together. You know they're not going to end up together, and yet there is such profound love between the two of them, and that she changed him for the better, and that he was there for her when she needed it. Like their first date, she's all dressed to the nines, and this and that, and the hair, and blah. Even when the first time she invites him over, she's all in her peignoir outfit, and all done up, and and the moment that she sees him that is most romantic to me is when she's looking like crap, and he just shows up in this crappy hotel. And I just thought I wrote that as the goddamn most romantic scene ever. So it is. I love that.
I agree with you. Half of being in love with somebody is showing up, putting somebody else first. It's just the way it is.
Exactly. So that's the stuff in this movie that I liked.
Yeah. I really like this movie. I do. It is hard not to like this movie.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't like the story, even if you get hung up like I do on a small portion of it, it is hard not to like this movie based on just performances alone.
It's so enjoyable and entertaining. Yeah.
So yes, I really do like this picture. Just making it clear, I like this movie.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, they're all complicated individuals.
Yes. Nobody's perfect by any stretch.
Exactly. I think a couple of them are a little underdrawn. John Lithgow, Danny DeVito, a little underdrawn, but they're all there.
I like those two, though.
They're adorable.
Just the men who are just sitting there in constant adoration, and she could care less.
Exactly.
Whatever, guys.
Just waiting for her scraps.
Yep.
So, I think it's a great movie, and what it is known for is not always the most important part of it, and not what's remembered, but it's the small moments.
Yes, I agree.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Is this fight number 2, by the way?
I don't think so, because you're wrong. So I don't think we're fighting. I know what
you were wrong with Lenny.
You have to see it to believe it, and I trust Deborah Winger.
Okay.
She thinks it was happening. It was happening.
Active fight number 2.
Okay, go for it.
The next one, of course, the last one, The Big Chill, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, starring an ensemble cast. Tom Berenger, Glenn Close, Jeff Goldblum, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Mary Kay Place, Meg Tilly, and Jo Beth Williams. Nominated for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Screenplay. Did not win for Actress or Screenplay. Holding Best Picture for last. Go with the facts.
All right, it is not on the AFI list, so none of these
This one does surprise me.
This one surprises me as well. So I think everybody knows that the body at the beginning and the friend Alex who killed himself was Kevin Costner, and they cut him out of the movie. But the director felt so bad about him that he actually cast Costner in his next movie, which was Silverado, which is the one that actually got him some notice.
Yep.
And so it's him and Kevin Kline are in that movie. And also, this is the movie that Kevin Kline met Phoebe Cates on, and are now still married to this day. She auditioned for Chloe, which Meg Tilly ended up getting, which makes sense.
Yeah, and they're like 20 years apart, something like that.
Right around there, yeah.
And it's one that people keep going back to as an example of, you don't have to.
Age doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I love these kind of movies, the big cast, but in particular the story of friends getting together years after the fact, kind of trying to see where their dynamics are. Are we still as close? Are we not? How much have we changed? Do we like each other even anymore? I like that exploration of friendship. And this movie to me is like the pinnacle of that. It is the best of the best. While this movie is rooted very much in a time period, it's not stated what time period it is, but it's a very 80s movie.
Mm-hmm.
The story and the characters outside of the occasional outfit is pretty timeless. This could have been set yesterday, it could have been set in 1920. It does not matter. It's timeless. One of my favorite conversations, and it's just great writing, is when it's the middle of the movie, they're all sitting around and they're starting to talk about Alex and his death and how they all lost touch with him. How do they feel? I felt my best when I was with you people. And William Hurt's character, the cynical one, basically points out, no, a long time ago we knew each other for a very short period of time.
What a great statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then because it shifts the conversation, and even though people end up attacking him, everybody has to react to that comment, and you see exactly what everybody is. Tom Berecher's character is like, I don't care, I'm going to love you guys forever. It does not matter to me. And I loved that as writing, just a great example of writing. Like one single sentence can change an entire scene.
Agree. Nope, totally agree. But speaking of Tom Berenger, he's the one that you expect to be the big Hollywood actor and blah, blah, blah. He's probably the nicest one of all of them, and he's the most grounded of all of them.
Yes.
And he is the one who was like, you are my friends, you are my circle. You know, when Jo Beth Williams came out, and he's like, is this the right thing for you? Let's make sure. And the same thing with when somebody, you know, when Mary Kay Place wants him to have a baby with her, he's like, I don't know that I can do that. I don't know that I can mentally kind of check out from that because I've already got a child over here. And so he made like thoughtful decisions about things that you would expect him to be the player and just be like, ooh, all the girls are coming after me.
I think his character, more than any of the others, recognizes their own weaknesses and flaws and puts them forefront as part of his character with his close friends. He wouldn't do that for, like, you know, his agent or somebody in Hollywood.
Exactly, but these are my people.
Friends,
these are my people.
These are the things you have to acknowledge that are not good about me.
Yeah.
So I can't have a child with you. I don't know. I would love to sleep with you, but I don't know if that's a really good choice. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I also want to react to your, it's timeless, and I agree to a point. It could be timeless in that, you know, it could be tomorrow, it could be in the 20s or whatever, but there is something about the Vietnam baby boomer generation of all of their hopefulness that they had, and we're going to change the world, we're going to make it a better place, it's all going to be wonderful, and then they become the 80s Wall Street corporate people. So I think that it's heightened version of we're going to make the world a better place, as many of them said they were going to do, and then they're all pretty rich and doing well and, you know, good corporate people. So it's a little more heightened in this very specific time frame.
I'll give you that. So with that, it does become a little less timeless. I will absolutely give you that. And you are right that there was that certain hope. I mean, our generation had it to a limited degree as well.
I think so, yeah.
But there is that hope, and then looking back, and what did we actually do? Did we do anything? No. This film overall is an example for me where the writing and the performances are the thing that are at the forefront.
Yes.
The director for this just kind of has to get out of the way, like help set a scene, tell the people what they're going to do, but you're not going to have some very specific kind of director come in and put themselves into the movie, because that would take away. Right.
There's very little plot. There's some threads that they tie up along the way, but it's basically, here's an event, react to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And I love the way they did it. They did it beautifully.
Yeah, I'm going to keep harping on it, but it's just a testament to the writing and how to write dialogue and character development and emotions and how people work well off and with each other. I can't speak highly enough about it.
Yeah, and you said something about the conversation they were having. The conversations with all of them sitting in the room together were the highlights of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I had a question for you about music. Anything for you?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously the music is so important to this. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic soundtrack, and it's something that doesn't tie everything together, but the music often is kind of transitional.
Yeah.
From one, we're going to have this nice happy scene to a little bit more introspective, and the music kind of follows that.
Yeah.
I thought music was used very effectively in this. Great soundtrack.
Best one was "Can't Always Get What You Want" at the funeral. That was just phenomenal. Yeah. I loved that.
Here's the thing that I think is done incredibly well, but I'd be curious about you. Outside of the very opening scene, you never see Alex. There's no flashbacks, there's nothing. But you have tons of conversations about him.
Yep.
And by the end, you kind of feel like you know him.
Yes.
Based on all of those conversations. You felt the same, I'm
I felt the
assuming?
same. I didn't want to see him. I had my own pictures in my head, and I thought they did a great job of telling us who he was then. And also because of the Meg Tilly character, which I do want to spend a moment on, telling us who he is now. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I just like the fact that you get to know so much about somebody that you never see on screen and told from so many different perspectives that you do get something that is very fully rounded at the end. There's a ton of character development in Alex without him being on screen.
And they all had a different relationship with him.
Yes.
I mean, you've got the main couple is he had an affair with the wife.
Yes.
And so she clearly got a relationship with her, and the husband forgave him, and that's an interesting relationship.
Forgave both of them.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like with the Alex piece specifically. Yeah. So, no, I didn't need to see more of him. I felt like I got a good sense of him.
Okay. You wanted to talk about Meg Tilly? Because I'm just going to gush. I love this movie.
Okay, so I love her, and I love the performance. It's a little weird. And I know that she's supposed to be that, like, strange part that doesn't quite fit in this group. And I think she does that extraordinarily well, but a couple of times, like, where she bursts into laughter that's inappropriate, and like, a couple of the times I'm like, she might be just too weird. Or when she's like, oh, I really wanted to sit up front with his family because I've never driven in a limo before. Like, your boyfriend just died. It's not about driving in a limo. So, and it was meant for humor, and I get that, but I thought she was just a tad too odd.
She also is, her character is presented as very much living in the moment kind of person.
Sure.
So like the comment with the limousine, while sure, your boyfriend just died, I totally forgive that because she's just like, I'm saying whatever's on my mind
she
at
does.
the moment.
She certainly does, yeah.
And she also, with her being there, you get more sense of who Alex was now. But she's also there to kind of, her character helps move things along.
Yeah.
When she's there, she says something, people are either talking about her and the relationship that they had, or she had with Alex, or they're reacting to something that she has done. Like, when Glass's character,
Which one?
the reporter for People.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Goldblum.
Thank you, Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
We understand very early on that he's just a massive pervert because he starts to hit on her and everybody around is like, and the body's not even cold.
Yeah, exactly. He's gone after her.
Like, so her character also served a function to kind of give you some insight into the people as well, the way they reacted to her.
Yep, good point. So, yeah, great movie, performance-driven, character-driven, very little plot, but you didn't miss it.
No, not at all. You can very easily follow the story from start to finish because it's just a story about people hanging out, figuring out if they still like each other, essentially.
Exactly.
I love this movie.
Alrighty.
All right, that's all of the movies. Do a little drum roll. The winner
Was Terms of Endearment.
Okay, and I'm going to take a guess that I'm gonna go against my instinct, which is to say that you don't think Terms of Endearment should have won, and you think a different film should have won, and I'm gonna be totally wrong.
You're totally wrong. It should have been Terms of Endearment. It won, it should have won, it will win forever. I'm gonna guess that you think Terms of Endearment should not have won, and it should have been The Big Chill.
100%, absolutely.
Okay. Here's the thing, in any other year, The Big Chill could have won, should have won, I'd be all over that. And I would have been okay of those 5 movies if The Big Chill had won. I can't take it away from Terms of Endearment to give to The Big Chill.
When we talked last week, when we were going into this one, I told you it was going to be a difficult decision, which one it was going to be. And it was only on the rewatch that I actually made up my mind. I cleared everything out, went in fully.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sorry, Big Chill's just better.
Yep, Terms of Endearment, more well-rounded movie.
That's it? We don't have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, do the liking, subscribing. Thank you all very much, and until next time.
Bye.